Here he is, much talked about this morning, trend hunter Jeremy Gutsche.
Trend hunter Jeremy Gutsche.
Chief Trend Hunter Jeremy Gutsche.
Trend spotting expert for CNN, BNN, and MTV.
Author of Exploiting Chaos.
Exploiting Chaos, 150 ways to spark innovation during times of change.
They call him the Trend Hunter.
Trend Hunter.
Trendhunter.com.
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 Trendhunter.com. Find out what's cool before it's cool. Jeremy Gutsche.
Jeremy, everybody. Thank you, Jeremy.
So, what exactly is trend spotting or cool hunting?
Anything that's mainstream or popular isn't cool anymore. So trendhunter.com, we're constantly looking for what's on the cutting edge and what's the next big thing.
We have tens of thousands of trend hunters who provide us with tens of thousands of trends, and then what we do is we try and filter through all the noise. People get all caught up in the doom and gloom associated with an economic downturn, but some of the most iconic companies in the world were founded during these times. Disney, CNN, Hyatt, MTV, General Electric, Hewlett-Packard, these are just a few examples of companies that were founded in periods of economic recession. Many of these iconic brands realize that in times of change, you actually have consumer needs that evolve, and if you're able to spot new opportunities, you can reinvent.
It's not tough to get inspired, but it's difficult to make sense of all the noise. Because the reality is, in addition to new ideas, you have to think about your customers, your competitors, your strategy. Inspiration has become distracting. So the first question for all of you, what's more important, culture or strategy? Culture eats strategy for breakfast. This is a sign that was on Ford's strategy war room. And the lesson from it is that it doesn't matter how good your PowerPoint slide deck is. What really boils down at the end of the day is how ready and willing your organization is to embrace change, try new things, and focus in when you find an opportunity. So I'm going to talk to you about culture in 4 ways. We're going to talk about perspective, intentional destruction, failure, and customer obsession. Those are words that you've heard before, but in a time of chaos, great organizations don't just check these areas off on a list. These are areas where you need to be revolutionary. This is hopefully one of the most important things you'll take away today, this question, because we're going to come back to it 3 times. Specifically, what is it that you are trying to do? And right now you might have something that's relatively descriptive, but by the end of the day you'll see how a very focused answer that gets your value proposition across can help people to choose you and help align your organization. The first thing is, who here has the need to win? Does anyone here like winning? Okay, so if you've got that need to win and you know this company's name, now's your chance to impress 1,000 new friends. Guess the company as soon as you know it. Here's your first clue from their website. Blank has been turning creative ideas into breakthroughs for well over a century. Microsoft, Apple, G, 3M, AT&T. Okay, next thing, they invented grammar checkers. Any other guesses? IBM. They invented electronic dictionaries in 1985. Webster. Wikipedia. They invented the laptop word processor in 1989. IBM, Hewlett-Packard. They invented PDAs in 1994. Apple. The answer is Smith Corona, the best typewriter company in the world. And that's a title that they still keep today. Smith Corona is really interesting because why didn't they reinvent into the wonderful world of computing? Well, at first it seems like an oversight, but when we put ourselves in the shoes of their managers, you'll see a lot of the decisions they made were rational and similar to what we might make today. So for the first thing I wanted to do, I went to their website to do a little bit of research, and that was funny because they have a website. In addition to that, here's a screenshot from their site. On the 8th day, God created Smith Corona. How many people knew that? Yeah, a little bit new too. Well, what would lead a company to assume God created them? Well, if you're going to put that on your website, you'd first have to be defunct and not really care what's on your website. But also, Smith Corona had a 100-year history of identifying new opportunities and then reinventing based on them. From the first typewriter with upper and lowercase characters, first portable typewriter, first portable electric, first word eraser, first personal word processor. They knew how to identify opportunity and reinvent. So why didn't they? Well, the next piece of information is that Smith Corona's revenues in '89 were still growing. They had $500 million in sales. So they're big, they're growing, and guess what? If one of those little computer companies take off, we can just buy them. We're bigger, we own the customer. Next piece of information. Remington Rand invented the typewriter. They were Smith Corona's biggest competitor. And in 1975, they got into the world of computing with a big, nasty computer like that. But by 1981, they declared bankruptcy. The lesson for Smith Corona, if you move too quickly, you could lose your shirt. Next, how many people recognize a nasty old computer like that? Yeah! That's a Commodore 128. That has 2 external floppy drives and a blue screen monitor. Boom! How do I get one of those? In comparison, this is the Smith Corona PWP-40. It has spell check, search and replace. You can save on a disk. In many ways, this is like a laptop 10 years ahead of its time, but with a printer built inside of it. So, now think about who your biggest customers are. They're multinational corporations, governments. Which one do you think they want? Do they want the computer box machine thing? Or do they want a better version of what they already buy from Smith Corona? So we keep making typewriters. But $500 million turns out to be a lot of money. I know this. My background is as a chartered financial analyst. If you put all that money in one room, I think it would be a lot. And so someone decided to try a joint venture, and Smith Corona did. They got into a partnership with Acer and started building computers. But just 1 year after that happened, they decided to kill the deal. And I don't have to tell you what happened to Smith Corona, even though God invented them, but I will read to you the quote from the CEO. He said, "Many people believe that the typewriter and word processor business is a buggy whip industry, which is far from true. There is still a strong market for our product in the United States and the world." CEO G. Lee Thompson, which is even a good name for like an old school badass type company, you know? Smith Corona declared bankruptcy for the very first time in 1995. Acer went on to become the 4th largest PC company in the world. The point is that situational framing dictates the outcome of your creative process. Smith Corona wanted to be the world's best typewriting company, and they are. But with what they did, if they wanted to be everywhere that humans were recording thought, if they had a broader mandate, they would have had to be in computing. Here's an interesting list. Disney, CNN, MTV, Hyatt, Burger King, FedEx, Microsoft, Apple, Texas Instrument, 20th Century Fox, Gillette, AT&T, IBM, Merck, Hershey, Eli Lilly, Coors, Bristol Myers, Sun, Amgen, Autodesk, Adobe, BMC, Electronic Arts, Fortune Magazine, GE, and Hewlett-Packard. Each of these companies was founded during a period of economic recession. Crisis creates opportunity because in these times, consumers still buy things, but they change the definition of what it is they need. They start to evaluate what's important. They look to substitute products. In the world of meetings, they look at other events. Yeah, they have to go to their association event, but now what value do I get from something new? Your competitors with their events are trying different tactics and techniques to engage their audience. So we're going to dive a little bit deeper into this. And I'll give you one example. I'll talk about Fortune magazine from that list. Fortune was founded just 4 months after the 1929 Wall Street crash. The price was $1 an issue, which was the same price as a wool sweater back in the day. But despite that, during the Great Depression, they grew their subscriber base to 500,000 people, and they made $7 million in modern-day profit. The reason isn't that it was a luxury publication during a bad time. It's that people lost their jobs in 1929 and the 30s because of the decisions that were made behind the boardroom doors in Manhattan, for the first time in history, really. Fortune offered a glimpse into what was happening behind those boardroom doors. Fortune was an answer to a new consumer need. So really, it's about trying things different and identifying those new opportunities. Here's an example. Broadcast TV is being challenged by viral videos. Newspapers by blogs. TrendHunter.com is just a blog in a way, but we get more traffic than most newspapers. CDs, the revenue model there is being challenged by concerts. Stores, e-commerce, ads, shockvertising. That's your quick way to viral on YouTube. America, China. New York, Moscow. Men, women. Libraries, Wikipedia, doctors, nurse practitioners, accountants, quick tax, lawyers, legal forms online, and photography by photoshopping. These are actually the trends that are toppling corporate America, and yet we all know about them. So why don't we take the initiative to do something about them? Let's talk about how you can actually start reinventing. Let's talk about failure. because failure is experimentation. A decent proportion of your creations must fail, because if you don't fail, you'll become the best typewriter company in the world. And here's what I mean by that. When you find something you're good at, it's like finding a hill of opportunity. For Smith Corona, that hill was the wonderful world of computing. But for each of you, there's something that you do in your organizations, there's something that you're the best at in the world. And because of that, you can always optimize and become just a little bit better. Smith Corona could always make a better typewriter. And because of that, when you try anything else, by comparison, it will seem like a failure. The problem with that is that being good keeps you on your hill and stops you from seeing new hills of opportunity. To get to those hills, you have to experiment and fail a lot. At the BBC, innovation means coming up with new TV show ideas. And in the 90s, market share started to fall. So the CEO and CFO needed to spark creativity. They said, okay, let's put a rigid process around the new idea. Innovation. Yeah? Got some people laughing already. Well, basically, innovation narrowed and market share went down. Now, when this sort of thing happens, the upside is you get a new CEO and CFO. They came in, they saw a big system that would be difficult to change. They didn't want to make ripples, so they made just one change. They put in a gambling fund. Ideas that failed the normal screening process could still qualify for gambling fund money. Does anyone want to guess one of the failure of an idea TV shows? The Office failed BBC's screening process because it was too much of a departure from what they were already doing, but it qualified for gambling fund money. And of course went on to become their biggest hit. Now, how you can create a gambling fund could be with money that you use to try new things, but can also be even just time, and having everyone in your organization spending just a bit of time trying something new that they didn't already do. The example that we talked about just earlier today would be even Twitter. So here's the mantra I like to live by. Win like you're used to it, lose like you enjoy it. It's pretty cool to think about what kind of impact that could have, especially on new members in your team. But enough about failure. Let's talk about customer obsession, because really that's what we're all here about. So let's say that the case study we're trying to do is to get people to stop littering from their cars. And what we got to do is figure out how to stop that. How many people recognize this image? Yeah, pretty good recognition. Even though this comes from the Keep America Beautiful campaign in 1971. In this campaign, Iron Eyes Cody makes an emotional connection with his tear. Even though, as a side note, he's actually an Italian actor named Esperanto Cody, but that's beside the point. My question is, does an emotional connection matter if it works just a little bit on everyone? Because the reality is, with anything you're trying to communicate, when you're trying to market your events, when you're trying to align your team, anything you're trying to sell falls across a continuum. You could functionally tell people about your products, ideas, your event. You could suggest the benefit. You could make an emotional connection, or you could go a step further and make a cultural connection. In a cultural connection, you're not speaking to someone, you're speaking with them, and that's empowering. When you make a cultural connection, it's like the reason why people tattoo Harley Davidson on the side of their arm, even though it's a corporate logo. But to make a cultural connection, you need to intimately understand your customer. So we need to know who litters. Now, back in the day, Texas-based GSD&M, they spent $500,000 hiring a company to figure out who litters. And I'm going to see if we could recreate that in this room. Do you think we could do it? Okay, I'm going to need you to be loud. We're going to figure out who litters on the side of the road. Males or females? Females! Oh, there's not like one guy who could throw in females at the end of that. All right, so males litter. Young males or old males? Those damn young males. Do they drive cars or do they drive trucks? Minivans or pickup trucks? Okay, so with like no research at all, you're a very convinced audience. It turns out, after really doing this research, you're absolutely right. The people who litter on the side of the road are males, they're young, and they drive pickup trucks. They also drink beer. I know this because I've researched this one myself. And it's Texas, so let's give them a shotgun rack. But most importantly, they have a king of my world lifestyle. So put yourself inside that pickup truck, juxtapose yourself next to the crying Italian actor, and ask yourself if he stops you from wanting to throw a beer can at the side of your pickup truck. Inevitably, he does not. So I'm going to show you the campaign they came up with. If you're from Texas, you'll recognize it. If you're from outside of it, you'll know of it, but you won't necessarily know it's from littering. Yes. Don't mess with Texas. Yeah, we got a Texas contingent here. And my favorite part about this, trademark. This is a trademarked ad slogan. These words were used for the very first time to get young males to stop littering. In fact, one of the very first commercials had two NFL Dallas Cowboy superstars. The one guy sees someone litter, picks up the can on the side of the road, crushes it against his head, and says, "If you litter in Texas, you're littering on me. Don't mess with Texas." Okay. I will not litter. Now, obviously, we see how this message connects. I'm going to show you an example of how the charitable group that stops littering keeps this message tied to their actual campaign. Here's a recent piece.
Hey, this is Owen Wilson.
This is Erykah Badu. I'm Janine Turner.
This is Julius Jones.
This is Lance Armstrong.
This is Leanne Womack.
We're Lost Lonely Boys.
This is Chuck Norris.
This is Jennifer Love Hewitt reminding you.
Don't mess with Texas.
Now, personally, I would have ended on Chuck Norris. But they're like, no, everyone's afraid of Matthew McConaughey. So put yourself inside that pickup truck, compare the two campaigns, and it's pretty clear which one makes a difference. The first one seems like a good campaign, but then when you see the difference of a cultural connection, it's that much more powerful. In addition to making that cultural connection, litter on the side of the road was reduced by 72% over 4 years, slightly exceeding the goal, which was 5%. And of course, that slogan is now synonymous with Texas. The takeaway is that in all industries, innovation starts by intimately observing your customer, whether you're in design, artist, entrepreneur, or if you put on events. It matters for your CEO just as much as it matters for your newest hire. I'll give you an example of how different companies are pushing to really understand their customer. I was interviewing the head of design for GM, and I was most interested in the Cadillac Escalade, the greatest selling SUV by dollar value. The reason, of course, that this vehicle is so hot is that it is in every rap video. It is an icon of hip-hop culture. So I asked him, how did you make this possible? Was this product placement in videos, or what did you do? And he said, well, Jeremy, I designed a luxurious sport utility vehicle for affluent males aged 45 to 60. And then that happened. Oh, I'm glad I went to school. I'm glad I studied marketing. That really worked out. But when he didn't understand his customer, when chaos changed his world, he needed to know how they thought. So he personally went to one of the most dangerous neighborhoods in Detroit. And I want you to think about who's driving the Escalade in the most dangerous neighborhood in Detroit. Then when he saw one, he flagged it down, went up, and said, excuse me, young man, but I designed this vehicle, and I was wondering if I could accompany you on a ride alongside your business for the day. Wow! Think about how much he'd learned, though, from talking to someone who's otherwise so culturally different. And for that young man, this is an opportunity to hang out with the guy that invented the icon of his lifestyle. So when you're hunting for trends, then you start by resetting your expectations, build your customer understanding, and sure, look at what your competitors are doing, but also look at what's happening in other events. Fashion, design, marketing, pop culture. What are the coolest runways that are getting viral attention, and what elements of that could you actually bring into an event? Look in these other industries and you can find a way to reinvent. Then look for patterns that are interesting, and from there you can start to innovate. The idea of how do you package your messages so that they create word of mouth and viral attention online. Basically, at trendhunter.com, we've learned that there's 3 ways to cultivate infection. You can have a viral creation, a viral medium, or a well-packaged story, or all 3. Let's talk about the first one, having a viral creation. This is the idea that your product or service itself is so good, your meetings are so unique and interesting that people talk about them. So as an example, here's a product that we once wrote about. How many here sometimes work from home? So none of you then. No, that was like everyone. Now today, you have webcams on your laptop, so the joy of working in your pajamas or boxer shorts fades away when someone wants a Skype meeting. And if you need that Skype meeting, then what you need is one of these. You need a suit. But you don't need just any suit. You need a half suit. All business up top, all party down below. This was back in 2006, but 175 sites linked to us, 1,800 sites linked to them. Fast forward 6 months, and that little half suit got about 35 million free impressions. That was back then. Now we're 20 times bigger. Twitter and Facebook have made things faster. Word of mouth travels faster than ever before. So the lesson for you is not that you're going to make an event that is a half suit. The lesson is, today, when you create something that connects, your story will travel faster than ever before. So let's start getting into how you'd make your message travel. Well, the medium, the way you convey your message is very important. And I'll give you an example. This guy is Josh Bell. Josh Bell plays a $3.5 million Stradivarius violin. He played the background music in the red violin. And when he's on stage, he makes $1,000 a minute. So quite simply, for what it is that he does, he is the best in the world. So the Washington Post, as a case study, wanted to throw a free concert. They found the busiest area they could in Washington. They set him up, and you're in the planning committee. You've got to figure how many people are going to stop. 1,100 people are going by every hour. So the question to you is, how many will stop and listen? Will it congest? What's going to go down? How many think 500 will stop? Put up your hand if you think 500 will stop. How many people think 250 will stop? All right, how many people think 100 will stop out of 1,000? All right, here's what happened. Josh Bell is the best in the world. When he's on stage, he makes $1,000 a minute. But when he's not packaged like that, just 7 people stop, and he makes a total of just $35. Most of which came from one woman who recognized him and said, "Hey, will you be here again next week?" Portray your product as average, and that's all that it will ever be. How is your meeting or event the best in the world for that specific group of people who love it so badly? That's what you need to think about and package accordingly. This all brings us to our very last section on creating a well-packaged story. Specifically, what is it that you're trying to do? Having a consistent and concise answer to this can have a very big impact on your company. Back in the day at Southwest Airlines, people used to ask Herb Kelleher a lot of questions. It became the only airline that was successful because he always had a consistent answer to this question, and that helped people think for themselves. In the early days, someone said, "Hey, what type of salad should we get? Because LA Las Vegas research says that people would like a salad. Should we do another survey?" And he said, "Low-cost airline, low-cost airline." Okay, so no salad at all then. Got it. When you have a consistent answer, it becomes a mantra. Everyone making decisions in your organization knows how to make them. Everyone going to your events or working with you knows what you're all about. So what are the 7 words or less that define what it is that you do? At Trend Hunter, we like to say rule number 1 is to relentlessly obsess about your story. We've published 65,000 articles now, and each one will get on average 1,000 views. Every day there's 100. but some will get 10,000, and some might get 50 or 100,000. So we very carefully study the title, because the title, we've learned, is what causes a message to travel. In fact, as a little example, does anyone remember there was a politician that came out? Her name was Sarah Palin. When Sarah Palin came out, someone wrote an article, and they called it Female Vice Presidents, and it was getting some traffic. And I thought, hey, this is a great example for an experiment. So I put out another article, and I called mine Hot Vice Presidents. The exact same article, same content, but a test to see how much difference one word could make. The first one got 30,000 views. The second one got 1.1 million views and was sourced on CNN, Fox, and the Associated Press. Very careful word choice makes a big difference in word of mouth and viral, getting viral attention online. The first thing is that your story needs to be simple. Simple messages supercharge word of mouth. The second is you need to be direct. Direct does not mean descriptive. Direct means I get why I should choose you from your title. I know your value proposition. I know why you're different. That's direct. And finally, you need to be supercharged. When your message is supercharged, you're basically passing the I have to tell someone test, which is the essence of what becomes viral. So let me leave you with 2 examples so you can see what this is all about. This little burger is called the Fleur Burger. It comes from the Fleur restaurant in the Mandalay Bay Casino in Las Vegas. There we go. We got some love for Vegas. So why this is such a good title is the Fleur Burger conveys French cuisine and luxury. You know it's a higher-end burger, and it's a play on words from the actual restaurant. So marketing teams would be very happy. But how many people would talk about this burger? Instead, if we called this the world's most expensive hamburger, that would be simple and direct, although still not supercharged. But what if we called this what it is? What if we called this a $5,000 hamburger? This hamburger actually costs $5,000. I think when you finish it, you should get a certificate for your wall that says, I just ate a $5,000 hamburger. Now, next time someone's complaining about an expensive entree in a restaurant, you're going to remember, how expensive was this burger? That message just stuck. And as our final example, keeping us in the wonderful world of hamburgers, I present to you this lovely beast. This could come from the Fat Burger Cafe. That would be simple and direct. But instead, this comes from the Heart Attack Grill. At the Heart Attack Grill, that's called a quadruple bypass burger. It's served to you by someone wearing a nurse's outfit. It comes in a combo pack that includes 3 beer and 3 packs of cigarettes. And if you finish it, they'll put you in a wheelchair and they will roll you back to your car. Rule number 1, relentlessly obsess about your story. Let me leave you with my thesis that by leveraging viral trends and methodical innovation, you can generate ideas, harness creativity, and ultimately exploit chaos. Thank you very much.